Welcome to another episode of the Prout Podcast. This is a podcast series looking at issues in the news and society from the perspective of the Progressive Utilization Theory. And I'm your host, Dada Veda, Vedaprajinananda, or you can just call me Dada Veda. It's perfectly okay. So the subject today is Elon Musk, the ugly tip of a big iceberg. And this topic came into my mind recently. First, I was alerted to it when there was an article came out in a recent issue of the New Yorker. It was called The Shadow Rule of Elon Musk by the journalist Ronan Farrow. And he gives a long reportage about the worrying influence that Elon Musk has in many spheres of our life. And it also was amplified recently by another report that during the war with Ukraine and Russia, that some of the Ukrainian attack drones were cut off from their communications because of Elon Musk's directive. Now, what is going on here is that the infrastructure of Ukraine, especially the internet infrastructure, is all in the hands, or you could say it exists because of the Starlink network of satellites providing internet access for people. And this has become a problem recently because Elon Musk has certain views about the war and Russia and China, which are influencing his decisions regarding the different businesses that he owns, such as SpaceX, which is launching this vast network of satellites. SpaceX also, which is becoming one of the main carriers of astronauts to the space station and eventually even on the moon mission. So this is problematic because Elon Musk has his own ideas of diplomacy and of international affairs, and it becomes a problem in effect that he's a diplomat. He's entered into diplomacy, and it's not the first time that magnates have entered into diplomacy. John Rockefeller and others before him have ventured in this sphere to try to influence greater events through their financial clout. But the problem with Elon Musk is that he has a grip on communications through his SpaceX. He has a grip on space development through SpaceX. He's running Twitter, which is a giant platform of communication, which has also become erratic and worrying because he's allowing speech which was previously barred, hate speech or different kind of conspiracy theories, different kind of things which maybe or may not, it's depending on your viewpoint, are harmful to the public discourse. And even the U.S. now, from the Biden administration, has a big effort to advance the use of electric vehicles, but the infrastructure, the charging network, is also in the hands of Musk. So this is a problem. But this is just an example. You may like Musk, you may not like Musk, but this is not really the issue. It's not an issue really of his personality. The real issue at hand is that public matters have been entrusted to private entities and private people. So it's not just SpaceX, it's not just Tesla, it's not just Twitter. But if you look at it, all our vital infrastructure, telecommunication, communications, transportation, mineral extraction, power generation. Many of these things, and most of them, are in the hands of corporations. And their decisions are made on the basis of their profits, profits that they could bring to their shareholders. And it may or may not be a decision based on the good and welfare of all, of the public. For example, mineral extraction. So the oil companies would like to drill, baby, drill, but maybe for the future of the planet, this is not such a good idea. So this is the problem. The corporations are controlling, and in some cases, in the case of Musk, it could even be so concentrated that even one individual will have an effect on the whole society and the outcome of different things. Even Musk has an interest in placating China because his sourcing for his automobiles is also from China, and he even proposed an outline for diplomacy, a solution to the Taiwan issue. So he's overstepped his boundary. He's not an ambassador. He doesn't represent the U.S. He doesn't represent anybody. But because of his financial clout, he's there in the picture. So we don't want Musk, but also we don't want, at least I don't know about you, but we don't want private entities encroaching on public matters. But what we have done, especially in more recent years, you've heard about the calls for privatization, privatize this, privatize that. So even things which have been public for so long, I call them time-honored institutions. So there's education, there's a push to weaken public education and have a voucher system. This is it's a libertarian dream that we pay for everything and we can choose the best things. But public education has been a pillar of democracy and shouldn't be weakened. Even innocuous thing that the Postal Service, the head of the Postal Service is really an advocate of privatization. So it's not a great thing. So really the main issue, and this is an issue which I have talked about in previous podcasts, is that public matters should be managed by public bodies and not by private entities. And what do we mean by public bodies? Ideally, they would be run by the immediate government, not a centralized government. We don't want a centralized bureaucracy like in the Soviet Union, but let the local governments, it could be state governments in a federal system, or if there is no federal system, it could be public boards, like we have also even existing today, the Tennessee Valley Authority, which is a public corporation that manages infrastructure in the southern USA. So it's possible but these, we have to decide now. I think one of the biggest issues of our 21st century is we have to decide which are the matters which are public. And those things should be put under public ownership and management. And the decisions made by these public bodies should bring about, we should think about not just profit making for a few people, but we should think about the welfare of society and for the future of society and for the future of planet. So this is really the issue in a nutshell. So Elon Musk has a disturbing influence, no doubt, depending on your viewpoint, of course. If you're pro-Russian, then what he did in Ukraine is great. He's helping he would like to help the Russians a little bit. Or you could also say, no, he's helping Ukraine because his satellite system is being used by them in many, mostly used by them, so they're benefiting a lot by it. But it's in his hands. So should it be in his hands to decide? And should the future of the electrification of our roads also be in his hands? It's a monopoly. Now, I already gave the solution, but I jumped ahead of the boat. But really, in the present environment, what we try to do is we say, okay, these are public interests here, but we can let those private entities do their thing, but we can regulate them. But regulation doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because who's doing the regulation? It's the government. But is the government stronger than the entities that it is trying to regulate? Is it? Theoretically, yes, but practically, the government is elected, and the elected government is elected after the influence of powerful financial interests, the lobbyists and the interests, paying the lobbyists to contribute to the campaigns. And eventually, the people who are the representatives, they are also representatives of those people who elected them. And the regulators in the regulating bodies are often people who were previously employed in those industries which they're trying to regulate. So it's difficult. I have said it like this, I'll say it again. It's like the tail trying to wag the dog. So I think regulation is not the answer, and it's not effective. And we've tried for years, antitrust regulation, break monopolies. It's a very difficult job. So a better future would be to put public matters in the hands of the public through management, ownership and management of the immediate local government or public boards. So this is, I think, the solution. Now there's one more thing which I know that comes up when we mention this. I'm going to do an episode on it. I even think that the sports teams, the franchises, should be run by the public and not by corporations. There is a model for this. So I'll explain. So I came on one blog, a sports blog, I mentioned that there were some issues about the ownership. I said, okay, put it under, let the fans run it, let the local municipality run it. And then someone retorted to me, it'll become like Venezuela or the Soviet Union. So I said, I guess Green Bay is doomed, because the Green Bay Packers is a U.S. football team which is owned by the public. They have a special corporation and the fans are the shareholders. So I retorted, I said, then I guess Green Bay is doomed. But Green Bay is not doomed. The team exists and it's financially sound. So anyway, this is not the way. But there is a valid point that government can muck up things too, just as corporations can. But the difference is that when a government fails, it's in front of us. We know who failed and we can correct it. But if the private boardrooms make a decision, a few people, or even like in the case of Musk, one person is making that decision, then what are we to do? We don't have any say about it. And another thing about past failed experiments in public management or socialization or whatever you want to call it, it depends on the quality of your government official, of your elected official. And this, if the quality is high, if people are honest and public service minded, then it can work and it will work. But we have a big task. One is structurally to define what is public and what is private, delineate that, and then roll back privatization and put public things in public hands. And we have to also definitely, of course, increase the efficiency and the caliber of our government structures, the caliber of the people who are running them. And if we can do that, then we can tackle the biggest issues of today, whatever they may be. No doubt they're challenging. But what my point is that we don't have to depend on a messianic individual, captains of industry, or boards, corporate boards to do it. We the people, we the people have the intelligence and we have the capacity and we have the desire to do the right thing. So I think this is the Proutist solution. This is what Prout would propose, because in Prout, I've mentioned it before in other podcasts, we have this concept of a three-tier society, three-tiered economy, basically. The uppermost tier of key industries and public infrastructure, which I've been talking about today, should be publicly owned and managed. The middle level, let cooperatives flourish, worker managed, worker owned, and the people who work in the who are employed in the workplaces should have a say in what's going on. And then for the things which are not as important, which have fewer employees, this is where private enterprise can flourish. But you don't put private enterprise up into the public realm, or else you will get dependency, as we see on people like Musk, or unseen corporate boards, or corporate boards working against the interests of the public, against the interests of the planet. So this is the Prout solution. And if you want to know more about our approach to things, I suggest you look at our website, proutalliance.org. You see that up if you're watching on YouTube, you see that up in the corner, or Prout, Prout.info. So this is it. And this is now, our podcast is working now in video and in audio. So if you're on any podcast platform, then you can subscribe the Prout Podcast, and then you'll find it, whether it be on Google or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You'll find it there, other places too. So subscribe to the podcast, give it a thumbs up. Yep, subscribe, give it a thumb. Because if you subscribe and if you give it a positive rating, then the algorithm will send it to more people. So if you would like to see this message go out to more people, then please give it the thumbs up, give it the positive rating. So that's all for today, and I thank you for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.